Welcome to Sunday Morning Live. I'm Sean Fletcher.
And I'm Ria Hebden. Coming up on today's show...
Obesity isn't caused by lack of willpower, according to psychologists. Our debate, is being overweight a choice? Some of the UK's leading psychologists claimed this week that obesity isn't a choice or the result of a lack of willpower, and making people feel ashamed can only make them feel worse about themselves. Well, the British Psychological Society report calls for a change in language when we talk about weight. But with obesity levels in the UK increasing by nearly 20% in 12 years, should people take responsibility for habits that could be putting their health at risk? Or is the stigma around weight part of the problem? Is obesity an illness or a choice? We're here to discuss that. Our writer and journalist Emma Burnell, model and presenter Lizzie Cundy, psychologist Honey Lancaster-James, and still with us, Nick Ferrari. Good morning to you all. Nick, nearly two-thirds of the nation are overweight or obese.
Yeah.
They can't all be doing that through choice, can they?
No wonder you've come to me first. Now, the reality is this. I have lost some weight, but I'd lose more if I ate more carefully. If we are going to tackle this crisis, and my old people like me, young people, you have to be more direct. We have to go the way that we've achieved with smoking, which I think most people would be as a great success. Cigarette packs showing diseased lungs, diseased hearts. You have to be able to turn to some patients, not all patients, and say, I'm terribly sorry, Mrs. Jones, you are obese, rather than you are living with obesity. The doctor must know the patients, if that's not going to work with some, but they must have freedom to say, you are obese, if you want to see your children live, you've got to shift weight, we've got to be real.
Emma, is that quite a basic way of looking at it? I mean, you've been on an incredible journey with your own body yourself, haven't you?
I have,
you
yeah.
used to weigh 25.5 stone. Did you feel judged? Did you feel that sort of language would have worked with you?
I mean, less with the doctor, who always said you're obese. It was never an issue.
And did it help? Did it make you think I'm going to lose weight?
It wasn't the doctor that didn't help. It was the people in the street who think it's helpful to fat shame you constantly, and like it's just a moral excuse to be vile to people, and it's so unhelpful. Because of course, what happens is you get upset. And you do the thing that gives you just that little burst of happiness, and you eat, and you put on weight, and then you're upset because you're fat, and then you eat, and then you put on weight, and it's a horrible, vicious cycle. It's really hard to break.
But, so what about when the doctor says it? I mean, is it right that the doctor should say you're obese and then that could affect your health in the future?
I mean, your doctor needs to talk to you about it, absolutely. The problem is that you go in for anything, and all they talk to you about is your weight. And actually, you know, if I've got something completely unconnected to my obesity, and they talk to me about the obesity at the time, it just makes me not want to go to the doctor for other things.
Lizzie, it's not helpful, is it? That sort of...
No, but I think we live in a society now where we're not allowed to offend, and we can't be offended because we can't pussyfoot around. And obesity is a huge problem. It's putting a massive cost on the NHS, 6.3 billion it's costing us. And and sadly with obesity you can get heart disease, risk of cancer is more likely, many other medical problems. And I think we've just got to be honest. I think we live in this PC world now where we're pussyfooting around. And
but what Emma's saying is that, yeah, fine, offend, but that doesn't help. That's not going to solve the problem.
It's deeply unhelpful.
But my own son, when he was at school, was told he was overweight, and and we had to look at him and say, right, OK, and we got him into sport, and we have to look at our lifestyle and what we actually eat. And what I loved about Anne Hegarty, I don't know if you saw from The Chase, and she actually said, I am this weight because I eat too much. I love cake. She was honest, and I think that's not what we're doing at the minute. We're pussyfooting around. I mean, I agree with what Nick said, totally.
Yeah, I mean, Honey, what Lizzie says, we can dress it up as lots of things, but ultimately, if you put more calories in that you're burning up, you're going to put weight on, and that's the equation, isn't it?
Yes, but I don't think anyone's actually disagreeing with that. We're not talking about, this is not rocket science. There is an equation there, but what we're looking at is the underlying behaviours that really sort of predict that. So we're not saying that it isn't about what you consume and how much exercise you take. It's about the fact that what drives those behaviours in the first place. And actually, there are several factors at play, and it isn't a choice. Obesity is not a choice. This is something that's down to biological factors, there are psychological factors, and there are social and environmental factors as well.
Yeah. Not in all cases.
Well, there are, because we all live within this society. And actually, when we look at the facts of the case, obesity is on the rise, but it is difficult for people to access good nutrition and exercise opportunities sometimes.
I respect that, and I respect there are some, but not everybody. The person who decides to just eat fried chicken and drink sugary drinks without any... And there are some people with emotional issues, but there's there's no emotion. They just like the taste and they're lazy. Let's be honest.
Yes,
Not everyone,
choices, I think.
not everyone.
But underlying that is a decision to go with a choice that just tastes great and not think about your health.
They like it.
Yes, but then you're also saying that, you know, it's not just about what, because they like it, they pick up that cake or whatever else. It's about the fact that underlying that is a lack of self-care, a lack of ability to perhaps feel empowered to manage their
obesity
weight
doesn't
because
happen
of
overnight.
fat
It doesn't
shaming.
happen overnight, obesity. It's a slow process. And if you are eating all the wrong foods, you're not exercising, you're going to become overweight. That's just...
The question is, why are you doing that?
But yes, but then you're going to bring on other problems, you know,
So,
diabetes,
Lizzie,
so many other things.
You mentioned children earlier. James Corden had something to say about this when he was responding to the American talk show host Bill Maher for saying that fat shaming should make a comeback. Let's have a look at what he said.
A lack of shame is not the issue here. If making fun of fat people made them lose weight, there'd be no fat kids in schools and I'd have a six-pack by now, right?
I mean, it's a fair point, isn't it? If it worked, there wouldn't be fat kids in school. There are more and more fat children in school.
Yes, there are more fat. I mean, 1 in 4 adults are obese.
Yeah,
There is a problem.
We all get your point that if you put too many calories in and you don't burn them up, then you put on weight. But why? Why is that happening? And doesn't he just sum that up?
If we really cared about this, if we really wanted to solve the obesity crisis, we do what works, not what makes us feel good about
But if we're
trying to shame fat
it's
people.
called tough love, and you know what?
But it doesn't work.
I think the other way around the other day, someone said to me that I look too thin. I actually thought, actually, you're caring. I wasn't offended. I thought, actually, you probably have a point.
We're talking about the broader picture.
But
On the
broader
whole, it
picture,
doesn't work.
Obviously, you have to be kind, but you can't
Surely what worked in smoking was graphic. If we agree smoking has been a success, what worked? Nobody would say you're living with smoking. You are a smoker and you will kill yourself. And on cigarette packets, you had all those images.
But there's a great deal of difference between
But
what Cancer Research UK did, which was saying obesity causes cancer. I had no problem with that. And somebody shouting at me on the bus that I'm a fat bee or whatever. But your society is saying that that's OK because you're constantly trying to make fat people feel bad.
But also, Nick, what you said is actually wrong, because if you label people, if you say to someone, you're a smoker, then what do? Their behaviours start to live out that thing. If you say you're somebody who is trying to give up smoking, or you're, you know, and take it as a behaviour, it's the same with obesity. If you start labelling people, then you categorise them and they feel very...
Quick response from Nick.
Let's not give excuses. Let's all work together to stop people smoking, stop kids getting fat. That's in everyone's interests.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the kids in a minute. Let's find out what people are saying at home.
OK, well, Mark's got in touch on Facebook and he says if people are obese, they need to do more exercise and eat less, stop medicalising laziness and a lack of willpower. Cynthia says fat shaming really is just bullying and causes far more problems than it solves. Paul on Twitter says the majority of obese people are fat because of bad food choices and gluttony. But Jet says if fat shaming worked, no one would be fat. And finally, Nicola got in touch to say I'm fat because I eat and drink too much and don't exercise. That's my fault, no one else's. Take responsibility for what you do. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, interesting points there. Lots of people talking about willpower.
Yes.
I mean, where does willpower come into? Because if you have a report that says that actually it's not personal choice, aren't people who are overweight just about to say, we're going to say, well, actually, it's nothing to do with me. I can't do anything about this.
No, because it's not the same thing as saying that you can't do anything about it. But saying that you're, you know, living with obesity is all down to willpower is just factually and scientifically incorrect. There are other things at play: biological factors, hormonal factors, genetic factors. Childhood experiences all come into play.
What about this point where people will just give up? Because actually, it's not anything to do with them personally. It's actually much bigger. You can blame it on something else. Isn't that a point? Isn't that a fair point?
No, I don't think so. I think...
This personal responsibility.
Personal responsibility is a part of it, absolutely. I had to take personal responsibility. I had to change my journey. But I had to do an awful lot of work up here before I could do anything down here. And the point is, it's not as simple as just eat less and exercise more. Because for me, it was like an addiction. And I can't give up food, I would die. So it's like asking an alcoholic to drink a regulated amount of vodka every day and not drink more of that. And that is the choice that I have to make every day. And sometimes I manage it and sometimes I don't. And recently, more often than not, I have managed it. But the thing that willpower gives me is not doing it every single day, but when I fail, getting back onto it and making sure that when I come... So I went on holiday, I put a load of weight on, had a great time. And then I went back to Slimming World the next day and started working on it again.
Nick, you actually look like you agreed with that.
No, I agree. I agree. And don't, for heaven's sake, I do not agree with fat shaming, as we just saw from James Corden. Exactly. That is absolutely... All I am saying is, In some areas, not all, in some instances, there will be people with emotional problems, but let's not make excuses. It is what Lizzie said. It doesn't happen overnight like that. This has been a cycle. And if they haven't got emotional issues, that's what needs to be addressed.
I mean, Lizzie, and you brought up children earlier on. 2 times the number of children in the poorest 10% of the population are obese compared to the richest 10%. I mean,
I think
economics must come into it when you look at figures like that.
It does.
If you're from a poor area, you're more likely to be obese.
I agree, but we need to be educated.
Haven't got any willpower?
No, not at all, but we need to be educated. I think parents need to be educated with their children, what they're feeding them. It's very easy just to put your son or child in front of a PlayStation and give a donut for a quiet life. You have to, you know, sport is so important, exercise, healthy eating vegetables, all of that, education and awareness for a better life, longer life, healthier life. And, you know, and I feel for you what you're saying as well, but... You know, I do believe, you know, as I said to Nick, obesity doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. No, but for children, it's not a choice, is it? I mean, it's the parental responsibility.
For children, it's not a choice. My parents fed me perfectly well, and I put my weight on in my late teens. I had lots of emotional issues, and it was a reaction to those. And then, of course, once I put some weight on, my life got worse. Yes. And I put more weight on, and my life got worse. And I put more weight on, and my life got worse. And it's about understanding those factors as much as the fact... Because I'm not stupid. I know that what I need to do is eat less and exercise more. And now I do that most of the time. But there are so much more to becoming obese. No, it's not overnight, but it is a cycle, and the cycle is what we need to break. And doing the things that are harmful and make people feel worse is never going to help them break the cycle.
But it is one of our biggest problems in the UK.
Yeah,
it's
so let's deal with it properly.
27 billion. It isn't the answer, but I think if we all work together, we can have a healthier, longer, happier life.
OK, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for now. Thank you all very much indeed.